Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today it's Andy here and welcome back to Assetto Corsa for another classic cars and motorsport video. Now if you can't already tell by looking at the thumbnail to this entry and indeed the car you're looking at on screen just now, we are talking about a very iconic car that has quite a cult following. It is the early 1990s Mazda 787B, and there it is there in the number 55 in the green and orange that it is known for. And this is the car that won at Le Mans in 1991. But why is it so iconic? Well, it took me a little bit to figure out, but maybe it's because it was an underdog. But we'll go quickly over some history. So it replaced the 767 and the 767B cars that were used during 88 and 89. It brought over a lot of technical stuff from those cars though, but they did make a new 4-rotor 26B, it was called, Wankel rotary engine. Roughly about 2.6 litre engine, producing normally around about 700 horsepower mark, with an maximum output rumoured to be around about 900 brake horsepower at over 10,000 RPM. The engine gave maximum of 608 newton meters of torque. That's easy enough for me to say, and that was predominantly around about the 6,800 RPM range. And there's just so much to this. They did engine limit this car to 8,500, just over 8,500 revs, because the engineers decided fuel efficiency was going to be crucial. So that gave it around about 650 or so horsepower, roughly, from the car. It first raced in 1990 at the JSPC 1000 kilometres of Fuji. But despite all Mazda's efforts, it didn't do much, and not certainly in terms of the winning anyway. In fact, in 20 odd races that it competed in, it only ever won one race, and that was of course Le Mans 24 Hours in 1991. Now there's a bit of background behind that as well. This is obviously technically a Group C car, which is probably one of the reasons why so many people pine over it so much. Rules were already in place for 1992 where it was going to change to a 3.5 litre Formula Ave engine. Most teams tried it, most of them blew up, except for Peugeot. And the Mazda qualified quite far down the field actually. I think it was around 17th was the 55 cars grid position in the race. Now normally they were told to take it easy, fuel efficiency, reliability, etc. But for this race, knowing it was pretty much going to be a last hurrah, and knowing that the 3.5 litre engine cars out front and that were most likely going to be unreliable, they decided to go hell for leather. In that car was a 3-man combination, as well as you usually see at most races, of course, and that team combination had the likes of Johnny Herbert in it as well, who we all know of course from Formula 1. The cars got underway and quite quickly the Mazda got itself up into the top echelons of the grid, but it was a good few laps down on where it should be at one point. It didn't look like it was going to do very much, let's be perfectly honest, it wasn't happening, but as cars fell by the wayside, the cheeky little Mazda came through and ended up winning the 24-hour Le Mans. And it was its only victory it ever took in its entire lifespan, was the most famous race of them all at Le Mans 24 Hours. Just absolutely incredible to think that the car is so well remembered by so many people, and yet it only ever won one race. That is absolutely crazy to think of, in my opinion, but it did do exactly that. So what we're going to do is what we always try and do. Usual YouTuber stuff. We're going to try and take it round the Nordschleife and see how fast we can go. Now obviously the target here is going to be something like that Porsche 962C, and obviously remember that Porsche we did do on both Project Cars 2 and on Assetto Corsa. Now the plan for this video was to do a side-by-side comparison with Assetto Corsa and GT Sport, Gran Turismo Sport. However, yours truly doesn't play GT Sport enough and I didn't have the credits to be able to buy it, so maybe that's for another day, we'll come back to that one. But we're going to take this iconic car onto the road, onto the green hell, and let's just see what it can do. This will be fun. So here we are in the 787B on the Nordschleife. Now I'm having to record this commentary separate to the lap purely because my microphone wasn't on when I done this lap and managed to get it right. But here we go anyway, across the line. You can see it's my third lap off the session, down to first gear and into turn one. Car doesn't want to turn and just understeering wide through the first corner, but listen to that engine. It was when he's throwing it downhill here, and just when you hear this engine get the revs up, and then I started to realise just why this car's got the following it has, because that engine noise is just absolutely delightful, just abusing and using the curbs here. We don't need to worry about lasting for 24 hours obviously in this. Down, keeping it in second gear through here, nice and easy on the throttle. When you hit 6,500 RPM at the maximum torque in this thing and you're not careful in those lower gears, it will pitch you round into a spin as we head up to the flood plats. Up and over the rise of the crest, keep it in fourth, clip the curb, not quite what I wanted to do, but that was my best effort through there in the laps that I did do. Here we go, finally up into top gear. Porsche 5-speed gearbox, so it might not be a different engine, but it's got the same gearbox that 962 did, predominantly. Just about flat out through there, but I just lifted so I could get on the brakes nicely for the right-hander. Easy on the way in, slowly on the power on the exit, and flat down one more time as we come down through the valley to see where we head up to next. Up the hill, sorry, I'm forgetting where I am here. It's what happens when you're not commentating at the same time. Quickly down to fourth gear, throw it into the left-hander, down 2 gears, pretty sharpish for the next section, then down into first briefly for this tricky little section. Coming towards the end of sector 1, you can see in terms of my best time, I'm about 8 seconds up at the moment, so we're on for a decent lap so far. I'm going to hold it in fourth gear through here, and just nicely just blend off the throttle and then down 2 gears quickly. Little lock up there, but nothing too major, and it's going to keep it sit. In fact, we're actually going to go up to third quickly and then back down to second. We're going to drop it into first gear and back on the power one more time quickly, already up into third gear. Just take it nicely through the cambered section there, and then we're just going to hold it. Got a bit of slide there on the entry, which just don't compromise the exit. Down to this tricky part, catching the grass, not what you want to do when you're on the brakes, and just nice and easy through here, taking it simple, and then back on the power up to second gear and heading up towards Bergwick very shortly indeed. Down the gears again, up down to second this time, throwing it in. You can, I will tell you, this car, I like the 962C. It was such a tricky car to drive. It's not as much steering input as I did have in the Porsche, but it was still giving me enough of a workout to keep it right. You can see the braking, even when I'm pressing down the brakes, I'm lucky if I'm getting half the braking power, so if I could get that right then it would be helpful, but it's such a tricky thing to do, and the pressure you have to put through the brake pedal to get this right in this game is ridiculously hard on something that's just a standard G29 pedal set. Anyway, coming up through the gears now, 170 plus miles an hour, coming up to that quick section just before the carousel. Throwing it in here, we're going to drop it down to fourth gear. Could have used a wee bit of the road to the side. 120 odd miles an hour, nicely through here. Going to keep it pretty much floored, just drop it a little bit on the way through and then into this corner here. And again, the rear wants to snap loose, catch the curb, nearly pushes us into the wall, but we collect it all up and carry on towards the carousel. Going to take the carousel as normal, down to first gear, and just nice and easy, around about 50 miles an hour nearly, just nice and easy in, pop out the other side, get on the power, and you can see taking a while before I can get full throttle, especially in those lower gears with the torque about, but back up the gears we go, throw it into the left-hander. I'm going to come down a gear into this tricky section. Now, I've mentioned this before, I get really frustrated in this section. You can see the car again, just trying to break loose on me through the braking zone there, and then one more time up through the gears, nice and gently on the throttle here. Make a bit of a mistake here, running very wide onto the grass. That cost me a couple of times. You can see we're 13 seconds up now. Keep it in second gear through here. Could probably have got a bit quicker through there, apart from the tank slapper that I got on the entry. Down to second again. Just going to hold it there, hold it there. Tricky corner here as we come up towards YouTube corner now. Use a bit of the curb on the inside, up to third, back down to second quickly. Chucking it in, holding it tight, and then we've got this tricky left-hander. This catches a lot of people out. You got to be so careful through here. But again, we're getting through there nicely. Little bit of a slide on there, got us in the grass as we're coming down to this tricky part here. We're going to brake now, down to third, and then down to second. Maybe I kept it in third and kept my foot on it, but again, just didn't want to take the chance. And now through this tricky secondary valley section, which in certain cars is completely pinned to the floor, but I just didn't have the confidence to do it in this car, especially collecting the curbs the way I did. So we didn't get fifth gear there. Back down to third for the right-hander. We're not far from the end of the lap now. Down to second gear, coming up to the second carousel. The Porsche on this game done a 6:42.5, so that is the time set by a Group C car in this game that we've taken around the Nordschleife. So we'll see where we get to that one. Down to second gear, coming up to that long back straight now. In just a moment, up to third. A little breather there as I get it a bit wrong over the bumps, and now I'm just going to let you listen. Listen to it sing, nearly 8,500 up to 8,300 revs nearly, to come down the back straight towards nearly 190 miles an hour. Cars capable of doing over 200. Where will we be in comparison to that 6:42.5? I really got brave on the brakes into here, braked it a bit later than I normally would, and managed to get the car slowed down. That did help to keep the time up. You can see we're coming up to that 42-second point. We're going to just be under, try to chuck it into the last corner, across the line. It's a 6:43.9. There's the lap time, so not quite there with that one, unfortunately. But as you can see, a phenomenal car in its own right, and that drops it in just behind the 962C on the leaderboard. And that is it for another episode of Classic Cars and Motorsports. I do hope you are enjoying the series, and if you haven't done so, please drop a sub onto the button there, big red button, and hit the bell icon. You'll be notified anytime I go live with other Classic Motorsport series videos, any Grand Prix reviews, any of my races that I might do, anything that I do sim related will be on the channel, so do hit the bell icon as well. Hit like if you enjoyed this, comment below your thoughts on the Mazda 787B. Next up for myself on this next week, just after the Le Mans race, which goes ahead this weekend, it's time to get into the McLaren F1, and that's going to be fun. Until then, my name is Andy. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you again soon. Ta-ra.